TitleMatchNetwork.com.
We were talking a little bit about wrestling the Von Erichs. Just about everybody we've interviewed, and I've talked to, always say that David was the best worker out of the bunch. Do you agree with that?
True.
Okay.
Yeah, that's an easy one, yeah.
Okay. And you were actually there the night that he passed away. What do you remember about that?
Well, that's another one of those deals where the evils of alcohol, I suppose, but it really wasn't. That's not what killed him. We drove. You fly over there, of course, when you're flying on those planes, whenever you'd go over there, the thing you do, you'd always jump to the West Coast. That's a short flight. And then when you get there, you'd have an hour or so sitting in the airport. And so, of course, you'd have a few beers. And then you get on the plane. And generally what you do is have a few more beers and a few drinks. You'd get something to eat, and then you could go to sleep. And about the time you wake up, it's going to be, in a few more hours you need to land, right? Okay, so I'm sure that's what we did. And then when we got over there, of course, as soon as you get there, they took us to a press release, kind of a deal where you go in, everybody talks tough, does all their gimmick, and, everything's going on. And then after that, of course, we're cut loose and, just we'll pick you up in the hotel lobby tomorrow morning or whatever, 10 o'clock, whatever it was. And of course, it's early, so we think, well, let's go. Everybody always go to Ribera steakhouses in Japan. So we went over there and we'd eat and drink beer and eat. And, you get the big steaks. It was nice because you get a big steak over there, and it would be almost like a steak at home, but in Japan. And so we went there, and of course, everybody ate and drank. Well, David ate 2 plates and drank just like we did. And then, of course, we stumbled back to the hotel we were staying at. And when we got there, David said, I'm going to go upstairs, I'll be right down. And we all went right into the bar, started drinking. And David went upstairs, and he wasn't gone 2 seconds, it seemed like. And he was back down, sitting right next to me, drinking Chivas Regal, and ordered more food. I'm looking like, Jesus, where are you putting, how do you eat all this food, and whatever. So we laugh and giggle and, continue on. Well, pretty much it's David and I, and it's like, I'm done. We're done. Let's go. So we're going upstairs. He goes, come on up to my room for a few minutes. Come on, well, a little bullshit and laugh and giggle. So I go up to his room, and I remember walking down the halls. In Japan, the hallways are not 8 foot tall; they're about 6 foot tall. He's real tall, and he'd run his head into the little signs hanging off the side of the thing that says whatever. Who knows what it says? But he thought that was so funny that he could just run his head into the signs because he was tall. So we go into his room, and of course, blah blah blah, talk whatever, and he was fine. And I remember. I says, Dave, I'm gone. I'll see you tomorrow. When we go home, we go. And I go. I say we, but it was just me. I go, and I remember him sitting on the side of the bed. There's a wall close by him, and he's going to sit there. He says, I'm just going to sit here and call my wife. And okay, yeah, all right. Well, we'll see you tomorrow. Okay. Off we go. Blah, blah, blah. Go to sleep. Blah, blah. Get up next day. Don't see him, And I don't think we left till... maybe it's later in the afternoon, but we're all on the bus now the next day, and we're sitting on the bus, and no David, Brody's on the bus, everybody's on the bus, and Joe Higuchi comes down. Joe Higuchi is the Japanese referee that works a lot with the American boys over there, used to, I don't really know what he's doing anymore, but he come on and goes, Brody-san, come, please, come. And Brody gets up and oh shit. We hadn't seen David all day, and we thought, and the first thing we thought was, you gotta go say the promoter's son. He went out probably drinking all day. He's probably drunk. And off he goes, and we can hear in the distance sirens coming, ambulance are coming. We all kind of looked at each other like, okay, everybody stood up and went right after Brody. Went right in. It was only on the second floor. had a corner suite. Wasn't really a suite, but it was a corner room. The management was there, opened the door. Joe Higuchi went in, Brody went in, and I went in. And Scott came in, everybody followed in behind. And there David was laying right in the same spot I'd left him. He had just laid back, and he was blue as your jeans. You know, he was just blue. And you hear comes in, and all of a sudden, you know, the ambulances all pull up, and up comes the paramedics in there. They get on him and try to do something with him on the bed, and the bed's bouncing up and down. You know, you can't push, and so they wanted him off the bed. Of course, he's big, and so I grabbed him by his hands, and Brody had him by his feet, and we slid him to the edge of the bed. And when he slid him to the edge of the bed, his head dropped back, and shit poured out his mouth and kind of out of his nose. And well, they set him down, and they just started pumping, and they'd be wiping away, and they were trying to resuscitate, and every time they'd move the mask, they'd be wiping food away from his mouth, you know, and his nose, and he was gone. He was blue. He never moved, and you know, eventually, you know, okay, everybody out, and you know, basically, we had to go do TV, you know, great, you know, we got to do David. We knew he's dead. He's dead. He ain't dead. He's dead. You know, and then they left him in the room, and 3 days later, they asked us if we'd all like to say goodbye to David one time before they moved him, because what happened was it was the end of the week, and it was like a holiday in Japan, so the coroner wasn't even around for 3 days or something, and he sat in the hotel room on the bed for 3 days, because they brought us back in there 3 days later in order for us to say, like, goodbye, because they're gonna, you know. So we went back in there, and everybody went in. I can remember that Brody went over and kissed him on the forehead and said goodbye.
Wow.
You know, and then they did have a funeral for him over there, and then he went back, and you know, I've got the paper from the Fort Worth or whatever. It shows a lot of stuff there. But I wasn't around the funeral. And then when I did get back, I did give Fritz some final pictures that night when we were whenever you're at Ribera's, he always took a lot of pictures of all the boys. And when we came back a couple weeks later on the tour, went back there, he gave us some pictures of David. So I gave him to Fritz.
Wow.
So I don't know.
Now, I have to ask you about this because Gary Hart talked about this in his shoot interview, and he was talking about David. And he said that somebody flushed drugs down the toilet in the room.
No. I know that David had a certain amount of some painkillers. I saw him there, that sort of stuff. But that's not what killed him. He didn't overdose on it. His stomach erupted. He was one of those, what is it, purging? He'd eat and purge and eat and purge. And his stomach was screwed up.
Bulimic,
you know,
I think. Is what they call it.
And you know that wasn't it. He didn't die of an overdose. It wasn't an overdose. His stomach erupted, and it just choked him. He's dead. Had nothing to do with any drugs.
Did WWE cut anything out of your interview that you did, or did they just leave it on as you did it?
Oh, you mean they just let it run?
For the one that you did for their
one
DVD?
for them, yeah, it just ran, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, you obviously don't see everything because we sat there for 4 hours or something, you know.
Oh, wow.
And chatted, and they used, you know, pieces that whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.